another program brought to you by the Pamunkey Regional Library. I'm here at the Rockville branch again today, and we are going to have the second installment of our Aging Gracefully series. If you remember, we started off our series with our first topic was what is normal aging, and today's topic is going to be tips to keep you in your own home. So once again, our guest speaker today is Carolyn Velletri. Carolyn has practiced occupational therapy for over 45 years. She received her Master's of Science degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. She's worked with adults in the private and public sectors in both inpatient rehabilitation and home health care settings. She also owned her own private practice for a number of years, and for 10 years she was an adjunct faculty member at VCU. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Carolyn, who is going to talk to us about tips to keep you in your home. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today with you all at the Rockville Cochrane Library to share some information about tips to keep you in your own home, or as we sometimes like to refer to it as aging in place. Recently, I received a message from a friend who asked, Jim and I are starting to think about how we can stay in our home as we get older. We love it here, but we just don't know if we can really manage to stay here as we age. She asked, what are your thoughts? Because you're an occupational therapist, we thought you might have some tips to help us stay at home. I immediately thought of the good fortunes of my mother-in-law, who lived in the home that she and her husband had built when they were married until she died at the age of almost 96. What were some of the things in place allowing her to stay there? First of all, the actual place she lived, the residence, and the village were big factors. Although the house was nearly 70 years old, there was only a 2-inch step up from the garage into the kitchen. Most of us have at least 2 steps, 5 steps, and on and on. So that was a big factor. The house also, for a house of that age, had a first-floor bedroom and a full first-floor bathroom. Most of the doorways, including into the bathrooms, which typically are narrower doorways, were wide because my father-in-law had salvaged them from other houses in his business as a contractor. These things really weren't planned, but they were in place, and that helped enable her to stay in her home. Another factor was the community. She lived in a small village, surrounded by friends and family she'd known for years. The small businesses like the pharmacy and the grocery store were available to her for deliveries if needed. And she was lucky to have a truly excellent primary care physician just down the road, a few miles away. There was no public transportation, but she was able to get in and out of a car and had willing drivers. Finally, that ability to get in a car was a big plus because her disabilities, like needing oxygen and using a walker, and a fair amount of physical assistance didn't keep her from staying at home. If she'd had more disabilities, she might not have been able to stay there. While we plan for our residents and know the community we live in, the less predictable element is the person or the persons that factor into aging in place. Not everyone ends up in a wheelchair. That may be one of the biggest things that we plan for. And let's face it, we can lead a healthy lifestyle and do all the things we're supposed to. However, we never know what lies ahead and what abilities and disabilities we face. These 3 components, the place, the residence, the community, and the person, as they come together, determine our aging in place. So what are some tips to keep you in your own home? Let's look at each component in a little more detail. Warning, There are more questions than answers at this point. The good news is there are lots and lots of resources, and we're going to highlight some of those. Others will be available to you during a visit to the library. One of the best resources that I've come across in recent times is this AARP Home Fit Guide, and this will be at the library for you to pick up. You can also go online to AARP. Let's start with the place, your residence. So here come the questions. The first question is, how do you get into the residence? My mother-in-law had 2 inches. No doubt you probably have stairs, maybe a set of stairs. Do you have a ramp? Is there an elevator? It might be easy now to get into your house or your apartment, but what if you need to use a walker? Or what if you do need to be in a wheelchair? Think about the residence in general. Is there good lighting? How easy is it to move from room to room? Are there stairs inside? The first tip, and one of the things you'll always hear, and it's probably going to be on every checklist that you look at, is take up or firmly secure area rugs. Are there safety measures, such as smoke detectors and fire extinguishers, in place? What about emergency supplies, like flashlights, batteries, extra water? There's so much that we need to think about. Many home modifications make your home safer and more accessible, and I'm going to highlight truly just a few. If we go from room to room, then we discover things. So replacing handles on doors and faucets with ones that are more comfortable for you to use, such as lever handles and rocker light switches, are a good option, especially if you're making modifications or you're adding something in. So most of us have something like this little regular doorknob, and what I'm suggesting that you might want to think about are lever handles. This is a fairly modern looking one, but there are more traditional ones. Another really excellent thing to consider, and this is even in building a new home, is going from what are considered the toggle switches to a rocker switch. Rocker switches are great because you can like hit them with even your elbow if you're carrying things and that sort of thing. So they're great options for everybody. The kitchen and the bathroom are important rooms for aging in place. Most of the accidents and falls take place in these 2 rooms, so let's talk about some tips to make them safer. Let's start with the kitchen. According to Consumer Reports on Health, fires may seem like the most frequent kitchen hazard, but cuts from knives send more people to the emergency department. Always use sharp knives. Your hand is less likely to slip, especially using proper cutting techniques like cutting away from you are important. Store knives in a knife block, not in a drawer, unless the drawer has dividers specifically made for knives. When you store knives in a drawer, you're more likely to get cut when you open the drawer and reach for the knife, and also the knives rubbing against each other in the drawer dull the knives quite quickly. So use sharp knives. However, fires can be more deadly, so it's important to have a fire extinguisher right near the kitchen, handy or very close by, and make sure your smoke detectors are in good working order. In recent years, they've come out with smoke detectors that have 10-year batteries, which are awesome. And some smoke detectors are hooked right into the electrical system of the house. But it's important to make sure, no matter what, that they're in good working order. And you can contact our local fire department and they may be able to help you out in some instances, they may even install smoke detectors for you. Let's move on to the bathroom. Falls are the #1 problem, and they occur most often in and around the bathtub, the shower, or the toilet. It's really, really important not to use unstable fixtures like towel bars to lean on and to push yourself up from, say the commode. I've seen a sink literally coming out of the wall from someone pressing down on it to push themselves up off of the toilet. It just won't withstand the weight, and it's also very important that the grab bars near the shower be installed properly. They need to be secured into the stud, so you want to make sure that somebody who knows what they're doing is installing those grab bars. One useful tip is if you happen to have a bedside commode in the house or nearby, and getting up and down from the toilet is an issue for you, you can take that bedside commode and literally place it right on top of the toilet without the pail, the little potty pail underneath it, and then you instantly have grab bars and you instantly have a raised toilet seat. Most contractors now are installing, and you would want to do this if you were replacing a toilet, get a comfort height toilet. It's only a few inches higher than a normal toilet, but it's good for everybody except for maybe little kids. And then they have little stools to climb up there anyway. Another thing in the bathroom is, and actually in the kitchen as well, is to lower your water heater to 120 degrees, and that would be to prevent burns. There's no point in heating water just to cool it down with cool water. So about 120 degrees is the recommended temperature. Medication management and storage should also be addressed. And actually, medications aren't best in your bathroom because of the moisture that's in that area. But you want to think about how, first of all, do you even get your medications? How do they get from the pharmacy to your house? Are they mailed? Do you have to pick them up? Can they be delivered? That sort of thing. And then where do you store them? Preferably in a dry and dark place. Are there people in the house that you need to protect medications from? So the library has this little lockbox that's available for you all to come in and pick up. It's really kind of cute. And you can lock your medications in there and maybe some other things as well to keep them safe. There may be children in the home. There may be persons with dementia that you want to keep medications secure from. Finally, how do you manage taking your medication? And we talked about this in the first part of this series. Do you need assistance? Do you need someone to help you? Do you need a little medication box or something to help you manage taking your medications on a regular basis? One thing that's available and may be available to you, depending on who your provider is, some pharmacies will actually package your medications on a daily basis, and that's pretty cool. Fortunately, you can see I'm kind of rambling through. There's lots and lots of tips, and there are checklists available for you to look at and think about to make your residents safer and easier to navigate. There are some that are going to be available for you, like, is this home fit? Is another one that's going to be available to you. And there's several others. And I just want to highlight a couple of things because it's really impossible for me to cover all these things. We talked about stairs, but we didn't talk about handrails. So it's important to have handrails on stairs and handrails on both sides of the stairs because you never know what's coming down and which side you're going to need to lean on. We didn't talk about telephones, which are still really important, and they need to be in good working order, and You should have them extensions throughout the house, and especially one near your nightstand. Let's see. Install a nightlight. We had a friend, I couldn't even believe it, in their late 70s fall down the stairs. And I said, how did that happen? You know, well, he couldn't see. He couldn't see. And I said, well, don't you have a nightlight you put on at night? No. I got him a nightlight. Okay. And let's see what else. Here's another big one that I forgot to mention, and that's overloading plugs and electrical outlets and frayed electrical cords. That's when we go into someone's home and we're doing a safety check, that's a big thing that we see, is that overloading and frayed cords and cords running under rugs, and there's just issues with that you really need to be aware of. More extensive and some typically expensive home modifications might require the input of a professional, such as an occupational therapist. And we do have a little tip sheet that comes directly from the American Occupational Therapy Association that'll be available for you at the library as well. There are also certified aging in place specialists, but unfortunately we don't have anyone in our immediate area that could help you with that. But there are contractors, and most builders, especially something like a grab bar, they're going to know that grab bar has to be secured into a wall stud and not just put in with a little anchor. There may be assistance in some areas for older adults. We usually think of Habitat for Humanity as building new homes for people with needs, but they also have programs where they will make homes more accessible for older adults as well. Rebuilding Together is a great program for those who have general repairs and also accessibility issues. Probably those programs you would need to contact your area agency on aging, or possibly a social worker in Hanover County could help with that. You want to be really careful when you get involved in some major renovations to make your home more accessible or safer, because it's really easy to get over-involved in something that you probably don't need. When I visited a home health client years ago, when I drove up, they were installing an elevator externally to the house to help get their parent, who was going to be coming to live with them, into the house. And that was all well and good. However, when we went inside, they had absolutely nothing in the bathroom. The bathroom was not accessible. They couldn't even have gotten the person into the bathroom. And if they did, they had no grab bars and nothing in place. So you want to be careful with, where you put your money, so to speak, in any of those home renovations. The second major component to age in place is the community. What kind of supports are available? I used to love doing home health as an occupational therapist because I had half the story when I walked in to the door of a home. I knew the essence of the community. I knew if I was dealing with a rural area, no transportation, very few services, or was I in the village of Ashland? Were there family and friends, and did they seem supportive? What was the residence like? Was it a trailer or a small apartment or a spacious home? And on and on. I knew right then and there what I was dealing with. Transportation is a big issue for many individuals, especially in rural areas where most people rely on their cars. So, heaven forbid, when you can no longer get behind the wheel, there are other options. Are there willing drivers available? One resource I found is the Hanover DASH.org, and we'll have this on our resource list as well. I personally don't have any experience with it, but it sounds wonderful for specialized transportation, for medical appointments, grocery store, errands, and formal social programs, and it's for people 60 and older. There are also private pay services for transportation, like wheelchair vans, for example. There are ways to get about, but that is certainly a big concern, especially when your ability to drive is somewhat diminished or non-existent. What if you need someone to come in and daily to help you bathe and get dressed? Are there agencies that come and service your area? How will they get to you? How do you get your medications, groceries, and other supplies? Some of these were challenging for my mother-in-law, who needed 24-hour care at the end of her life. There was no public transportation where she lived except for a very expensive cab company and a train that was over 10 miles away. Social isolation is also a big factor. You don't want to have yourself in a situation where you're by yourself a lot and you don't see other people. I know my mother, for example, lived in a very rural area, and after my father passed away, she moved into a village area, into a place that was more manageable for her, but also provided her with a lot of social opportunities, which she thoroughly enjoyed. And how far do you have to go for medical care? Where are your medical providers? Are they nearby? Are they far away, and how will you get to them? I worry about my 82-year-old sister who lives alone on a secluded property. And my biggest concern is her safety. She's outside a lot. She's very active. She's doing great. But if she is outside and falls and gets hurt out in her garden, how is she going to get help? And how long will it take someone to actually drive in and see her and help her? So one of the things we often recommend is a personal emergency response system. Or you may know it as I've fallen and I can't get up, that you hear on television. But I've fallen and I can't get up comes in many shapes and sizes and features, and in certain situations they may really be important to look into. We're going to have this comprehensive guide to personal emergency response systems on our resource list, and it'll give you an idea of some of the kinds of things that might be available. Lastly, the third component, and the least predictable, is the person. None of us can predict the future, but we can try to modify it to some degree through preparation and prevention. In October, we're going to focus on preventing falls in the final session of this series. What are some other areas that we might want to look at? Good preventive health care and medical care are critical. The longer we're healthy, the longer we can stay at home. So let's talk about emergency situations, for example. What do you do in the case of an emergency? I used to have home health patients say, well, I'll call my brother, or I'll call my daughter. Please call 911. Please, please, please call 911. The rescue squad will tell you over and over again that they would rather have you call and have it be nothing or very minor and walk away than to have it be something more serious and you not get the help that you need immediately. So call 911. It's okay. The more information that you can have for the rescue squad and the fire department when they arrive, the easier we make their job. So we have the File of Life available for you at the library. And this would give them the information that they need, contact information, medical information, medications that you're on, that sort of thing. If you don't do any other tip that I have recommended today, please stop by the library and pick up one of these. This is probably one of the most important things that you can do for your life and your safety at home. If you're diabetic or you have seizures, that sort of thing, please wear the appropriate bracelet, the appropriate medical bracelet. And I was very pleased to see when I went online to see what they cost now, because they're relatively inexpensive, I believe. A lot of them now even actually have, I guess it's sort of a call-out type of thing, where if you press it, it will call out and give your medical information to someone, which is, or I don't know. I really don't know how it works. But anyway, it sounded great. Also, you can put an app on your smartphone that allows someone access to your information, and I believe it's called Medical ID. They're free, and there are different ones. The very least you should be doing is carrying a list of your medications in your wallet. And most of these are simple and inexpensive ways to help save your life. But despite all our efforts to preserve our health and prevent mishaps, our abilities and disabilities remain the least predictable in our likelihood to be able to age in place. Tips to stay in your own home involve these three areas we've been talking about: the place, the community, and the person. I hope that you'll visit our library to pick up the File of Life, some checklists, and some other things to help you age in place. You also might be thinking, well, this is a lot to deal with, and I really don't know how this is all going to go, so maybe I need to be thinking about moving along. As much as we all want to stay at home and be independent, often that's really not possible. We may need more care, there may not be services available, and so many other things that might not be in place. The good news is there are lots and lots of options available. I hope that you might be lucky, like my mother-in-law, to be able to stay at home, but likely, even if you can stay at home, you'll have to plan a bit more. There are resources available to you, and I want you to take advantage of them. That's what I recommended to my friend. It's not too early. It's never too early to start thinking and planning about how you might age at home. And if you can make changes slowly and steadily, it may allow you to stay at home for a very long time. I thank you for your attention, and I hope that there's one small thing that helps you, and don't forget to get your File of Life. Thank you.
A big thanks to Carolyn for presenting that very important and informative program for us today. If you live near the Rockville branch, please make sure to stop by, and you can pick up your free information that Carolyn mentioned throughout this program, some of them being the Home Fit Guide for how to keep you safe in your home, a free medical lockbox, and also a File of Life. This is very important, as Carolyn said. You can stick it right on your refrigerator, and it will have all the information needed in there for EMS to successfully treat you if need be. Also, please don't forget to check the Pamunkey online calendar for our other upcoming programs, including the third installment of our Aging Gracefully series, third and final installment, and it will be called Prevent Falls, Please, and it will be going live in October. So thanks again for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you in October. Thanks.